Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto's hidden bloodline was the ultimate seduction jutsu that enchanted every kunoichi? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And no, start a new fanfic. Kunoichi was awoken the next morning by a flurry of knocks on her apartment door. Rubbing the sleep from her eyes, she opened the door. Apologies, Kunoichi-sama, but Hokage-sama asked me to fetch you right away. Kunoichi grumbled silently, beckoning the Chunin messenger inside as she started to dress. It concerns your genin team. Kunoichi dressed faster and set off for the Hokage's tower at a run. The black-haired woman burst hastily into the old leader's office. Is something wrong with my team? She panted. I believe so, the Sandaime Hokage answered as he gestured to his omniscient scrying crystal. The scene the concerned duo observed was disconcerting, to say the least. Team 10 was seated around the table, a pot of steaming tea centered between them. The trio of confident teenagers of the day before was gone, and in its place were three youths, with totally different demeanors. Ino held her teacup in two badly shaking hands. Hinata's hands kept opening and closing spastically as her eyes darted everywhere, searching for threats, and Naruto glanced back and forth between his two agitated teammates, tea in one hand and a kunai in the other. Hinata straightened suddenly, causing the entire group to tense. Anyo, I have to use the bathroom. Without words the three rose as one and moved to the nearer half bathroom at the front of the apartment. Naruto stood tensely outside the door with the kunai clenched in his fist as the two kunoichi slipped silently inside. He jumped slightly as the toilet flushed and the faucet ran briefly. The trio regrouped in the narrow hallway as the fox-faced boy searched the girls' faces for some mysterious sign. The young women nodded slightly and the boy relaxed his posture ever so slightly. I think, Kunoichi said softly, that we need to be there rather than here. The old Hokage nodded and the pair vanished in a swirl of leaves only to reappear outside Team 10's apartment. Who's there? Naruto barked sharply as Kunoichi raised her hand to knock. It's Kunoichi, Naruto, the scarlet-eyed Jonin called back softly in an attempt to soothe her subordinate's ragged nerves. Is it all right if Hokage-sama and I come in? There was a long moment of silence before the lock released and the Jinchuriki cautiously swung the door open. Come in. The senior nins walked inside, both noticing as the veins around Hinata's eyes faded away to normal. They had Hinata use her Byakugan before they let us in. Kunoichi realized with a frown. Would you like some tea? Ino offered, her voice barely above a whisper. The new arrivals nodded and fresh tea was poured for all. The group drank in silence for several moments. Then Kunoichi spoke softly. So, are you guys all right? You seem kind of restless this morning. She rested a hand gently on Hinata's shoulder, only to have the pale-eyed girl flinch away. Short night, Naruto mumbled into his cup, warily eyeing the exchange between sensei and student. Bad dreams, Ino added, wrapping her hand smoothly around Hinata's hand to provide the distraught girl some measure of comfort. I've found that night terrors often impart an urgent message, the Hokage murmured wisely. Sometimes it is best if you share this darkness with others. After all, you've already begun to draw comfort and security from each other. The three genins looked shocked at the realization that none of them had yet reached. Then Ino licked her dry lips and began. I trust everyone here knows a kunoichi's no, a woman's biggest fear. She began tentatively. Everyone nodded. Well, for me, that was just the beginning. XXXXX. Ino grimaced as the shadowy figure slammed her back into a lamp post, pinning her arms roughly above her head as an oblivious crowd passed by the scene. I like sweet young things like you, the voice growled as she squirmed in his grasp. Let me go, asshole. The teen snarled, thrashing against her captor's grip. Are you going to make me? He whispered, trailing his tongue down her neck and leaving a thick trail of saliva in its wake. Sasuke-kun will come rescue me, you pervert. The sapphire-eyed girl barked. And then you'll be sorry. Will I now? The unseen speaker's voice dripped with mirth and menace, as he began to fondle his helpless captive. Cold, uncaring hands began to violate her most sacred core and teeth bit into flesh that seemed to grow more sensitive with fear. A scream was begging to be released, but it would not come for fear that her revulsion at what was happening would be expressed in a different form. Her captor kissed lips that remained sealed under his. His expression turned to one of complete ecstasy when his prey tried to fight back by biting him so hard on the lips that she drew blood. "I love live prey," he whispered in her ear as he nipped the soft fragrant flesh right below her ear. "You said I'll be sorry, will I indeed, or will you?" XXXXX. "Did he come?" Naruto asked softly. "Did anyone come?" "No," his teammate replied. "Many people passed us, but nobody raised a hand to help. The last thing my attacker said was, 'See what waiting to be rescued gets you.' As he slit my throat. The fear of being ignored and forgotten, that was the worst. I know the feeling, but after last night I think some kinds of attention might just be worse," Naruto replied. The assembly looked at him oddly, so he explained, "When I was younger, the fourth Hokage was my idol. I wanted to be like him, to be able to put myself between a force of nature and those I care about with no thought except their safety. So it's quite odd to find your hero standing behind you as your home burns to ashes." The young man shivered as he told the story. XXXXX. Naruto choked as plumes of smoky ash billowed up from the once great ninja village, pouring past the Hokage monument. "I'm disappointed in you, Naruto," the stern voice of the Yondaime Hokage said from behind the young prankster's back. "This wasn't my fault." The Kyuubi container snapped, trying unsuccessfully to turn away from the scene of hellish destruction. "I couldn't stop this. I gave you an important task, and you failed. You asked too much. I gave all I could. I asked nothing more of you than I would expect from any other villager." The former leader's voice held a strong note of disappointment. "Then what more can I do?" The younger blonde screamed hoarsely. "Why are you here, watching the village burn? It's already over," Naruto wailed. "Leaf is dying and there's not a damn thing I can do. I thought the same thing when the Kyuubi attacked. I'm different," the boy snapped. "I'm no hero. The only thing that separates a hero from a demon is a willingness to stand firm and never run away, no matter how strong your opponent. If that's what you felt facing the Kyuubi, then that's bullshit." Naruto spat. "That's not heroism. That's suicide, is it?" the former Hokage asked. "And what about all the people I cared about who survived that day because of my sacrifice? No one in this Kami-forsaken village cares about me. Nobody took the time to get to know me, the real me." Naruto exploded. "Nobody cared about me, so why should I care about them?" "You don't care about anyone." Like magic, the voice's familiar lilt jolted the Jinchuriki out of his immobility. Spinning swiftly away from the terminal conflagration that was once his home, he confronted his accusers. "Aino-chan," he stammered, gaping in unspeakable horror at the burned remains of his once beautiful teammate. "And not even s, Naruto-kun." The soft stammered question fell from Hinata's flame-kissed lips even as one of her beautiful pearl-like eyes dangled limply from its socket. "What happened to you?" The blonde shinobi stared in revulsion at the smoldering remains of his friends. "You happened to us," Ino shouted, taking a menacing step forward. "We were counting on you to watch our backs and you ran. Why you never face your problems, Naruto-kun?" Hinata snapped, as the youth hastily backpedaled to escape her wrath. "All you do is run, and keep running," the fourth said, forcing the fox-faced youth closer to the precipice. "But what happens when you've got nowhere left to run?" Before the younger ninja could reply, he gave him a swift shove backwards. XXXXX. Would you?" Hinata whispered. "Or run away from us, I mean. I don't know. On the one hand, I wanna say it's just a dream and it wouldn't really happen. But I don't know," Naruto answered, running his fingers through his spiky blonde hair. "What do you think the fourth meant when he said he gave you an important task?" Ino asked. It's always difficult to understand dream logic, the current leader said. But likely what he meant was that it is every citizen's duty to defend this village to the best of their ability, no matter the cost. Naruto will have to tell them of his true duty in the fullness of time, he thought. But that can wait a while. So, Hinata, what did you see? Naruto asked, placing his kunai on the table before taking his teammate's hand. Hinata took a long swallow of her tea before she answered in a trembling whisper. I saw my family die. XXXXX. The night was filled with the screams of dying ninja. Hinata whipped her head from side to side as she dashed through the seemingly abandoned Hyuga compound. Father! Neji! She shouted desperately, trying to ignore the cold ball of distress growing in her stomach. Hanabi! Anyone! Hinata-sama! Run arg! Hinata grimaced as Neji's voice was cut off, followed by a disquieting gurgling noise. Hinata swallowed as she charged grimly around the corner only to see her cousin lying face down with his throat viciously ripped open. A hulking, shadowy form crouched over the body, crushing the branch member's spine in its monstrous grip. Spinning on her heel, she bolted from the site into an adjoining courtyard only to find the scene repeated 100 times over, main and branch house members alike inhumanely dismembered. Nei-chan, the heiress, stomach dropped helplessly as she sprinted through a door, following the screams of her younger sister. Please let her be all right. Hinata prayed fervently as she dashed up a flight of stairs 2 at a time, barreling through the door into her little sister's bedroom. The indigo-haired girl skidded to stop, frozen in horror at the nightmarish scene before her. Hanabi hung limply as another shadowy behemoth gripped her easily by the throat. Nei-chan, she wheezed, helplessly begging for her sister's aid. The creature let out a low chuckle as it casually grasped its captive's arm and ripped it off with casual ease. No, Hinata's anguished scream was easily drowned out by her sister's howl of agony. This is all your fault, you know. Hiyashi's dispassionate voice droned from behind Hinata as his older daughter stood transfixed in horror. If you would have just taken a stand, Hanabi wouldn't have to suffer like this. I didn't do this, Hinata countered as the gothic creature slowly ripped its claws through her little sister's midsection. But you did, her father's voice insisted. Your unwillingness to meet the challenges in your life led the Hyuga to this dark day. Whenever you found yourself tested, you backed down. Hinata grimaced as her younger sibling's other arm was ripped off, more slowly than the first. And so here we stand, the last two of a mighty clan, one impotent in her youth, the other in her determination. The creature grew bored of its current victim and mercifully silenced the younger girl by snapping her neck. Hinata stared in shock as her sister's lifeless body fell to the floor. The hulking monstrosity moved with such speed that the last living Hyuga felt little more than a searing sensation in her throat before her field of vision was forcibly altered. Her last, shocked sight was of her own decapitated head lying next to her father's. This really is entirely your fault. XXXXX. Hey, Naruto said sharply, slamming his hand into the table, causing both girls to jump. It wasn't your fault, it's just a nightmare. Even if you do run from your problems, Ino asked quietly, or wait to be rescued, Hinata murmured, or keep backing down, Kurenai said, carefully observing her unstable charges. No more. Hinata grabbed Naruto's forgotten kunai and plunged the blade through the back of her hand, embedding it in the dining room table with a brief misting spray of blood. No more backing down, she growled, wrenching the deadly implement from her hand and tossing it back on the table. Naruto picked up the bloody blade and stared off into the distance. No more running away, he murmured, mimicking his teammate. Naruto tore the blade from his hand and offered it to Ino handle first. Kurenai stiffened, but the Hokage's grip on her arm stopped her from intervening as Ino accepted the bloody talisman. No more, waiting to be saved. Her voice was barely audible, but her hand moved with the same dedication her teammates had shown, slicing through flesh and drawing blood without hesitation. She freed her hand and grasped Hinata's as Naruto wrapped his hand around the pair, completing the bloody union. For good or for ill, We are Team 10. Brother, sisters, lovers and friends. Hinata spoke next. Bound in will through blood and steel, we do not bow, we do not kneel. Naruto picked up next, his voice as soothing and lyrical as his female teammates. We face our fears, our sins atone. We stand together, we'll not die alone. 3 voices rose together in a single cadence. The bonds are forged, the calling done. The strength of 3 with the heart of 1. Naruto blinked slowly and was the first to speak in a hushed whisper. What the hell was that? I don't know, Ino said in a panicked tone. I just said the first thing that came to mind, and then I couldn't stop. It is not uncommon for a new team to have a phrase or saying that binds them together, the Hokage said soothingly. My students, the legendary Sannin, had such a phrase, as did your father's team, Ino. They went on to do great things, as I believe you will. But now, perhaps it would be best if we dealt with those kunai wounds, eh? The genin stared in shock at their still joined hands. Oh yeah, Ino murmured, making no move to separate from her teammates. I drove a kunai through my hand, didn't I? Which was a very reckless thing, Kurenai scolded gently as she returned from the kitchen with 3 wet hand towels. You could have done serious damage to your hands, to say nothing of the amount of blood you lost. Now, Kurenai, Sarutobi interjected. We all do reckless things when we're young. But if everyone is all right, I really should be getting back to work. What time is it? Hinata asked. 7:45, the Hokage answered politely. Naruto's eyes bulged comically. The library opens in 15 minutes. He exclaimed, frantically forming a now familiar cross-shaped hand seal. Kage Bunshin, release. For a moment, nothing happened, and then the blonde prankster fell to the floor screaming in pain. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, fighting back a monstrous headache. You love making work for me, don't you? Kyuubi growled, helping her host to his feet. What happened? The boy mumbled, swaying unsteadily. You decided it would be a good idea to reabsorb several hundred Kage Bunshin at once, the fox girl said wryly, eyeing the prankster as he wobbled unsteadily. If you were anyone else, that stunt would have left your brains leaking out your ears, and maybe a few other strategic places. Don't you think before you act? Sorry, Naruto grumbled, shaking his head to stave off the throbbing pain. I had this nightmare last night. He trailed off in time to see Kyuubi duck her head guiltily. That was you, he gaped. Naruto. Damn it, I trusted you, the shinobi ranted. It's not what you think, the redhead tried desperately to explain. You gave me your word. Naruto stumbled as he took an infuriated swing at the older girl who easily wrestled him to the ground. Damn it, brat, will you listen? The demoness held her host captive until his thrashing slowed. I hurt you, I admit it and I hate it. But I'm not without my reasons. What reasons could you possibly have for scaring the crap out of me and my teammates? The youth asked with tears of betrayal streaming down his face. Someone had to put you 3 on the right track, Kyuubi explained. You wanted power for power's sake, putting you on the road to tyranny. Hinata was infatuated with an image of you that led to blind obedience. And Ino's dislike of you would have tainted her actions to the point of obstinacy. So, I showed you all your failings and fears and hopefully, you're better for it. I hope you don't just expect me to roll over and forgive you. But your heart was in the right place so, thanks, I guess, Naruto grunted. What about that thing we said, that calling? I'm not sure, Kyuubi admitted, running her fingers through his shining blonde hair. Spoken words are some of the oldest, most powerful magic around, but the spoken language has made it the most common. So you could have done something, or nothing at all. The pair sat quietly as Naruto brooded on that answer. So, did you manage to make me tick any better? Actually, I did, and I found a couple of odd things. The vixen scrambled to her feet, pulling her charge quickly with her. One isn't so much a thing as a person. What the hell, I shouldn't have a third person in here. Heck, most normal people don't have 2. Naruto seemed confused as Kyuubi led him through the maze of corridors to an elegant double door. She's in here, most likely, Kyuubi said, swinging the doors open to reveal a massive library. Once I got her out from under all those chains, she started setting up this place. Who exactly is she? Naruto demanded. My name is Libris, a third voice interjected. Simply put, you could say I'm your intellect, or your smart side, if you had one. Damn it, even in my head I get no respect. That's it, I'm outta here. Naruto proceeded to look for an exit that didn't exist in his mind. If you were smart, you would know that you can't leave yet, because you're still unconscious, the unseen being taunted in a sing-song voice. Why don't you show yourself, damn it? You used that particular bit of profanity already, but since you asked so nicely. Libra's voice dripped with sarcasm as she chuckled, I suppose I can indulge you. Naruto blinked in shock as a young, blonde girl, about 9 years old, stepped out from behind a desk. She pushed her large, horned-rimmed glasses back up her nose as her azure eyes twinkled with a mix of arrogance and mischief. All in all, Naruto likened the disconcerting feeling to looking in a mirror. Okay, you're gonna have to explain some things, then. Let's see, why am I here, why am I a girl, and why am I so small, correct? Naruto nodded as Kyuubi lifted the chibi up and set her atop the table. She tipped her head to one side and tapped her lips thoughtfully. Let's see, how to explain in simple terms, the little girl mused. I do need to make sure you understand this, after all. Why are you such a smartass? Naruto snapped. Why are you such a dumbass? His opponent returned without hesitation. Naruto, what did I tell you about antagonizing people? Kyuubi admonished. She started it, he replied sullenly. Which one of you is a recognized adult? Kyuubi met his eyes firmly. Naruto grimaced. Part of him knew Kyuubi was trying to be mature about the whole thing, but part of him still felt like he was being double-teamed in his own head. And you? The fox girl reached over and whacked Libris sharply on the back of her head. What the blazes was that for? The pint-sized personification yelped as she simultaneously attempted to recover her balance in her glasses, looking quite awkward in the process. All of Naruto felt better at that moment. I don't see why you favor that thick-headed clod, the smaller girl grumbled. I'm not favoring either of you, but someone has to keep order in here. As the oldest, that falls to me, Kyuubi replied tartly. Now, contrary to what you may think, we have a limited amount of time, so read his mind and answer the questions. Not like there's a lot to read, Libris muttered. Unfortunately for her, Kyuubi heard her clearly and slammed her hand hard onto the table, glaring at the younger girl with flames in her eyes. All right, Libris yelped, shuffling backwards in fear. All right, no more remarks, Kyuubi growled, burning crimson eyes reminding all present that a benevolent demon is still a demon. No more remarks, Libris promised, turning her attention to Naruto. Close your mouth, open your ears, listen. Grow wise. Naruto nodded mutely at each of Libris' demands, then waited patiently as the little girl closed her eyes for a moment. As I said, my name is Libris, and I represent the intellectual part of you, you might say the book smarts. I'm the reason you've been making those logical progressions, sort of like putting a puzzle together. I've been the one showing you how to make the picture. Does that mean I'm not as smart as Kurenai-sensei and Ino-chan think I am? Naruto asked. And that's a bit of a rusty kunai, there. You and I are one and the same, and yet at the same time we're very different. I guess the best analogy would be the Inuzukas and their dogs. As the human, you have more freedom and ability. As much as it pains me to say this, I'd be your nin dog, capable of limited feats on my own, but a great asset when we work together. Understand? She looked up, half expecting to see the boy laughing at their roles in the master-dog analogy, but Naruto just nodded and motioned for her to continue. As for my gender, I'm a girl because, subconsciously, you think that girls are smarter than boys. No way, Naruto exclaimed. I can't believe I'm saying this, but, Yes way, Libris deadpanned. Think, Naruto, all the smartest people in your life, the ones with the best grades at the academy. All of them are women, yes. Well, yeah, but what about the Hokage? He's the smartest person in the village, and he's a guy, too. You mean the same man who was defeated by Enwarok no Jutsu? The younger girl replied with a grin. Face it, deep down you think girls are smarter. Hence me. As for my size, I hate to say it like this, but I'm small because you're stupid. Naruto growled in his throat, but resisted the desire to explode. Please explain. He managed through tightly gritted teeth. I'm your book smarts, Libris explained. Normally I would have grown during your time at the academy, but because you ditched so much, I'm not as mature as I would normally be. Of course there is more to that, Kyuubi chimed in. Do you recall that I mentioned finding Libris bound in chains? The young shinobi nodded. Those chains were representative of a ninja technique used on dangerous prisoners and violent hospital patients. It restricts part of the mind. Naruto frowned. But who would want to do that to me? And why? Simple. By reducing the mind to simple functions, it makes the prisoner easier to handle because he or she is less capable of complex planning, Libris explained. Unfortunately, I have no way of knowing who did this to you since it's a common technique for any shinobi traveling outside the village. Carrying on, I grow as you learn things. But I just read a huge bunch of books. You should be a giant. Not quite, Libris said. This is another one of those odd things. You did read a lot. Your clones did take in a lot of information. Can you remember, clearly, any knowledge you acquired last night or the proper way to apply that knowledge? Naruto scrunched his face up in thought, then shook his head. See now, you know a lot, but you haven't learned much. So, as I learn to apply what I know, you'll grow. That makes sense. But what's the deal with the library? Bound or not, I've always been around collecting information. This library is the result of that collection. I guess you could say it represents what we all know, you, me and Kyuubi. Libris held up her hand to forestall Naruto's next question. But there's a problem that came from my binding, only bits and pieces of these books make any sense. That's part of my job as your intellect, making sense of all this. Am I always going to have you in my head? Naruto asked, half hopefully. No, not always. In time I'll mature enough to catch up with you, and then, the young girl flushed a brilliant crimson. We'll merge. Just how? Libris cut off the question abruptly. What has Kyuubi showed to you? Libris blurted. Naruto pondered that information. Yes, you can do that here. Eventually, you'll merge the two of us into one being. I have no idea what will happen with Kyuubi. I don't recommend trying it without additional information. If you do it prematurely, we'll still merge but your mind won't be at its fullest. Now can we please stop talking about this? The smaller girl pleaded. We will have to continue this another time, Kyuubi murmured. I still want to show Naruto the other oddity I found. Would you like me to come with you? Libris asked, arching an eyebrow. If you wish, though we will be making haste, the redhead said in warning. Curse these short legs of mine, the younger girl mumbled. Get on. Naruto crouched down with his back to Libris. What? The little personification gaped in shock. I'll carry you piggyback, Naruto said. I wanna see this thing, you wanna see it, and we're burning time we don't have. Hop on. Libris blinked in surprise as she slipped her arms loosely around Naruto's neck. Quickly the shinobi hooked his arms under her knees at the elbow, lacing his fingers together over his stomach. Kyuubi, lead the way. Kyuubi smiled and led the way out of the library as Naruto bobbed along at a gently rolling gait. Maybe his wisdom lies not in his head, but in his heart, the little girl thought with a smile as Kyuubi led them down a long flight of metal stairs. Sorry about this, Naruto. I haven't gotten around to installing the elevator yet, Kyuubi joked. Although I do have some good news for you. By meditating on the seal, I was able to tap into the Shinigami's power and talk to him, and I got myself reinstated as the boss summoned for the Fox contract, for which you are the current holder. I also called in a favor from an old friend and she's coming to see if either of your teammates are worthy of summoning her. But we don't know how to summon. Naruto protested. That's a Jonin level skill. So is your Kage Bunshin, Libris replied. As far as summoning goes, theoretically it's very simple, once you've signed a contract. You present a small offering of blood, usually a bite mark is sufficient, and make the proper hand seals to channel your chakra. Unfortunately, none of us know what those seals are. Not even you, Kyuubi? Naruto asked. The redhead shook her head. I always had other ways of calling for help when I needed it. But the fox contract is special, as it allows you to summon mundane foxes, demonic foxes, and kitsune, or fox spirits. You'll have to practice with the summoning to see which results you get, a sort of trial and error. Although summoning demon foxes will be easier if you use my chakra, I suspect. What do you mean by your chakra? Naruto murmured. Come this way and I can show you, the vixen stated, leading the way onto a long metal catwalk overlooking a series of 12 large storage tanks. These represent your chakra reserves, and the piping leading into and out from them represent your chakra coils. Most people only have access to a single store, so their reserves look something like a lake. Now, 10 of these are for my chakra, the largest one for my body and the 9 smaller ones for my tails. The other 2 tanks are yours, but the contents of all the tanks are drastically different. Kyuubi looked around before leading the way to a secondary catwalk over one of her tail tanks. Dip your hand in there. Naruto looked warily at the liquid in the tank. Is it safe? Of course it is, Naruto. My chakra is a part of you now. Kyuubi smiled sadly. That is one of the benefits of being my Jinchuriki. Seeing her container's perplexed look, she continued her explanation. That's what they call those like you who hold a demon within their bodies, Jinchuriki. The literal definition is, power of a human sacrifice, Libris explained, on account that you are no longer simply a human being, but also a living prison. So the villagers are right? Naruto asked sadly. I'm just a demon, hardly, Kyuubi scoffed. Those foolish humans are mistaking the container for the contents. You aren't a demon until you start to produce sufficient quantities of your own yuki, or demonic chakra, which should be impossible for a human, even with my presence. But that is an explanation for another time, something we are sorely lacking. With that, she gestured back to the tank before them, and the blonde obligingly dipped his hand in. It feels weird, like jelly, he commented, rubbing the viscous fluid through his fingers. Can I do ninjutsu with your chakra? Yuki, Kyuubi corrected absently. And yes, you can, but the jutsu may react oddly. Yuki is very powerful, so you get, as you humans say, more bang for your ryo. It will also make the jutsu inherently unstable, so tread with caution. Over here is your human chakra, Kyuubi said, leading the way to another tank filled with a deep blue fluid. These tanks are huge, Naruto observed wryly. Of course, you constantly train to exhaustion, and that is the best way to expand your reserves. Of course, I did help a little. You can't honestly expect to squeeze something as powerful as me into something as small as you and not expect it to swell at the sides. Your chakra coils and reserves literally grew around me, the fox girl preened. Aren't we modest? Libris quipped, as Naruto crouched over the railing and trailed his hand through the mysterious fluid. What do you think? It's still thick, but much thinner than Yuki. The blonde youth stood careful not to dislodge his small passenger. The consistency reminds me of oil. But if you have 10 tanks, and I have this one, what is that one? He pointed to the last vat. That, Kyuubi smiled as she led the way to the end of the catwalk where a ladder descended to the base of the tanks, is the mystery. This is the fastest way down and I don't know how much time we have left until you wake up, so move fast, she added as she descended the ladder. Naruto watched until his tenant had climbed 3/4 of the way down before swinging over the side and bracing his feet against the ladder's rails. Libris, hang on tight, okay. Libris nodded grimly, tightening her grip on her mount's neck and locking her feet firmly about his middle. Satisfied, the blond boy shifted his hands from rung to rail and began to slide, picking up speed as the pair descended. Kyuubi, sensing Naruto's intent, hurried down a few more rungs and then dropped to the ground. Scant moments after she landed, she stepped back and caught the other two as they landed. "Good hustle," Kyuubi said, leading Naruto over to the base of the tanks. "This is the weird thing we've all been dying to understand," she said, pointing to a large mechanism sitting between the tank of Naruto's chakra and his mysterious 10th tank. A length of pipe coming out of either side connected the two as the device hummed merrily along. "I can't tell what it is because you're the first human I've been sealed in, but I think it may represent some kind of bloodline ability." "I have a bloodline, maybe," Kyuubi said. "If so, I have no idea what it's supposed to do. I just managed to get it running last night, aside from a brief turnover the night we met." "Wait a second," Naruto murmured, narrowing his eyes. "The morning after we met, I found an Anbu Kunoichi in bed with me." "Well, that is odd," Kyuubi replied, tapping her chin in thought. "The two might be related, somehow. Anyway, as near as I can tell, all this thing does is to make more chakra." Seeing her host's confused look, she elaborated, "It doesn't actually make chakra, but it transforms your normal chakra into something different." "So I have two different types of chakra," Naruto mused, already looking for an edge. "Can I use them both for my ninjutsu?" "You can," Kyuubi said carefully, "but I don't see why you'd want to. The second chakra is much thinner than normal and, I can only presume, weaker than the original." "How do you know that?" "Well, there's a little valve on this side here, I guess a pressure release or something. Crack it open a bit, and see for yourself." Kyuubi gestured to the mechanism in question and Naruto obligingly twisted the handle, letting a dime-sized drop fall into his palm. "Well, it is lighter," Naruto murmured, rubbing the watery fluid with the thumb of his opposite hand. Suddenly a shiver ran down his spine. "Oh my, are you all right, Naruto?" Libris asked. Yeah," he said shakily, looking down at the faded speck of silver. "I think so, but it's time for me to wake up." Naruto blinked as he faded out of his mindscape. "So, did you see it?" Kyuubi asked. "His mind is open to me, as it is mine as well," Libris said, a slightly perverted grin crossing her face as the fox swung her onto her shoulders and started back up the ladder. "Fascinating that it can affect him here, same as us. So overall, what do you think? With all the women in his life, it's going to be very interesting," Kyuubi said with a lusty smile and a faraway look. Naruto. Ino looked on with worry as the other blonde slowly sat up. "Are you all right?" "I think so," he grunted, cautiously gathering his feet under him. "What, exactly, happened to me?" "That was an acute case of mental overload," a new voice explained. "You tried to absorb too much information from your cage bunshin and your mind shut down to deal with the flow. You've been out for about half an hour. Thank you, Miss Dr. Azuki Shion." The brunette smiled as she reached up to touch the strip of metal running across the bridge of her nose. Running a spark of chakra through the metal, she transformed it into a pair of glasses. "The Hokage called me here after you collapsed." Naruto arched an eyebrow, studying the woman more closely. "Azuki, you don't have a forehead protector, so I'm assuming you're part of the medical corps, rather than a combat field medic. Do you have any siblings in the shinobi program?" Shion nodded with a slight smile. "My sister Yugao is a shinobi. Do you know her?" "I've heard that name in passing, so maybe." Naruto gave her his usual sunny grin, then turned to Sarutobi. "So, what exactly happened, old man?" "The cage bunshin is an incredibly powerful technique with two major flaws," the Hokage explained, lighting his pipe and opening a window. "First is the fact that the user distributes all of their chakra evenly between the original and all of their clones. Creating one clone divides your chakra in half, two splits it 3 ways, and so on. Now, how many clones did you leave at the library last night?" "I don't know," Naruto said, casually scratching the back of his head. A couple hundred, maybe. Jaws dropped and eyebrows rose. Shion summed up everyone's thoughts nicely. You split your chakra over 200 ways, and you're still alive. Are you sure you're a genin? I've got large reserves for my age, I guess, Naruto shrugged. I mean, I felt a little dip in my reserves after I made all those clones, but I was still okay to make it back here from the library. We're going to have to find a way to burn off all your chakra one of these days and find out your limit. Ino said, idly rubbing the thin white scar of her recently healed oath wound. Naruto-kun, you said that your Kage Bunshin retain their knowledge when they're dispelled, correct? Hinata asked. Yeah, that was the whole point of filling the library. And that is the second flaw in the Kage Bunshin, the Hokage interrupted. If you take in too much information in that manner. If you're extremely lucky, Naruto supplied, you only end up with a nasty headache. But then why didn't I have this problem when I fought Mizuki? Mizuki, the academy instructor. Ino looked surprised. What's that all about? It's all right for you to tell them later, Sarutobi interjected. A team must be able to trust each other, after all. As for your question, Naruto, I believe that because all your clones were focused on a single act, the focus mitigated the damaging mental effects. Naruto nodded, turning to Shion. So, Doc, am I cleared? Shion blinked herself out of her daze. Why yes, she stammered, catching a bit of drool before it could become too noticeable. Just try not to overexert yourself for the rest of the day and you should be okay. And if you need anything medical, any of you, ask for me by name. That's great, Naruto exclaimed, smacking his fist into his open palm. Kurenai-sensei, just so we're clear, where are we meeting? The elder Kunoichi shook herself out of her stupor. Training ground 12 at 10 o'clock. You sure? The blonde frowned. I thought you said training ground 10 at 12 o'clock yesterday. The Genjutsu mistress blinked. Yes, that's what I said, 12 at 10, but you just, never mind. See you at noon, training ground 10, same as our team. Yeah, that works, Kurenai mumbled, staring at Naruto in a slight daze as the Sandaime gently pulled the oblivious doctor and Jonin out into the hallway, using a minor wind jutsu to close the door behind him. Well, that was weird, Naruto muttered, turning to face his two starry-eyed teammates. Oh, for Kami's sake. He snapped, rolling his eyes as he brought a hand down hard on each of their shapely backsides. Snap out of it, what the hell was that for? Ino barked, rubbing her abused posterior. You were staring at me like I'm some kind of Bishonen model, Naruto called over his shoulder. I mean, if you're gonna gawk, wait, till I'm. Hinata's hands started through hand seals for her Byakugan before Ino grabbed her hands and shook her head. Hinata responded with a puppy dog pout before both headed off to change, meeting back at the door as Naruto pulled his shoes on. Are we ready to go? Sure, but where are we going? You said yourself people don't exactly like having you around. Ino asked, forcing herself to remain focused. True, but the commerce laws say they can't turn me away so long as I have sufficient money to pay for my purchases, Naruto grinned, tapping his chin. I usually get my best deals in the northern part of town, so we'll start there. If worst comes to worst I can throw up a henge. It might be better if you don't, Ino murmured thoughtfully. I mean, the clothes might all fit the same, but what looks good on your henge might not work so well with you. If you say so, I'll trust your judgment. Naruto replied, locking the door as they trooped out. XXXXX. Naruto winced sympathetically as a teenage girl and her mother stared at him almost longingly, then drifted face first into a street lamp and a wall, respectively. Why is everyone staring at me today? The blonde groused aloud, not expecting an answer from his equally enchanted teammates. Since leaving the apartment, the fox-faced shinobi had left a trail of stunned women and puzzled-looking men in his wake, and Ino and Hinata were flanking him at such an angle that they both had a clear view of his face at all times. Naruto, being the considerate person he was, crossed the road and helped his latest unfortunate victims back to their feet. After they assured him that they were all right, and the younger girl slipped him her phone number, Naruto turned to the brightly colored flyer hung on the pole of the slightly dented street lamp. Well, it seems there's a new shinobi shop opening a few blocks from here, he mused aloud, setting off at a slightly increased pace. This should do nicely, unless the other shop owners have started up the rumor mill already. In short order, the Kyuubi container found himself entering a modest establishment. A few of the customers threw glares at the boy, but Naruto just smiled back at them. I keep you safe from what you fear, just by being alive. So if you want to hate me if it helps you sleep at night, he thought grimly. Me, I'll just keep smiling. Welcome to Daidoji's grand opening extravaganza. A dark-haired teenage girl chirped, interrupting Naruto's thoughts. What can I help you with today? I'm looking for a new wardrobe, something ninja-ish. Naruto replied, groaning inwardly as the young girl's eyes grew unfocused. And I think I'll start with a mask. Would you be interested in a full or half mask? An older woman spoke up from behind as she reached out and squeezed the younger girl's nose until she started to squirm away. For Kami's sake, Tomoyo, just because he's kind of cute is no reason to gawk at the boy. Now lad, full or half? What's the difference? Naruto asked. The older lady beckoned the group over to a wall, sneaking furtive looks at the boy the whole while. A full mask is commonly what the Anbu wear, so named for the obvious fact that it conceals the entire face. A bit clunky for a first-timer though, and likely to attract unwanted attention. A half mask comes up from your collar to about the bridge of your nose. Okay, what do you recommend? Nothing at all. Tomoyo sighed happily, earning herself another nose tweak. Why would you want to hide any of that gorgeous face? So he doesn't have ladies young and old drowning in their drool. Shame though. She ran her roughened hand over the boy's whiskered cheek. You are quite handsome. If I were 20 years younger. The half mask. Naruto yelped in a panic. Black, maybe. With some reluctance, the older woman produced the desired article and helped Naruto fit it on. I don't think that quite works. Ino murmured, slowly coming out of her stupor. I mean the mask looks good, but the color doesn't quite work. Naruto said something, but it was slightly muffled by his mask. You're going to have to speak up a bit to be understood through the mask, but it provides a tactical advantage, since your enemies won't know just what you're doing. I said, maybe in blue then, Naruto repeated. It would go with your eyes, but we have to pick the right shade for your skin tone. Ino turned and rummaged among the masks before surfacing with a handful in various shades of blue, from nearly white to a navy indistinguishable from the black mask he wore now. Gomen, Naruto, this may take more time than we have. At least the mask will be the basis for the color scheme, right? Naruto asked as the four women began narrowing down the possibilities. I didn't think you knew anything about color schemes. Ino said, throwing the lighter-hued masks back in the pile. I may not know a lot, but I do know some. Why do you think it's orange and blue and not orange and green? Ino paled. Thank you for sparing us that, Naruto. The visualization has made me physically ill. You favor orange and blue, The older woman mused thoughtfully. That's not exactly stealthy, hence my need for a new wardrobe, Daidoji-san. Daidoji-san makes me feel older than I am. Just call me Sanemi-san. And you've met my daughter Tomoyo-chan. The newly identified Sanemi waved off his protests as she pulled out a number of masks from the darker end of the spectrum. That's just what you need, she said approvingly. So, pants next. In short order, Naruto was outfitted in simple black cargo pants and a tight-fitting navy blue t-shirt with a dark orange spiral, this being the sole concession to his unique fashion tastes. The outfit was accessorized with a modest white jacket, a utility vest similar to those worn by upper-level nins and a pair of black fingerless gloves with the leaf symbol etched into a metal plate on the back. After collecting some basic shinobi tools, the group went to pay for their purchases. Naruto paused as something caught his eye. Sanemi-san, what are these? He asked, picking up the elongated wrist bracers. Partial body armor. The bracers attach like so. And the shin guards go like that. Sanemi and Tomoyo expertly fitted the new garments. Beneath the outer cloth of the bracers and guards is a layer of leather, with 3 layers of tight woven chain mesh beneath. If necessary, they can be used to stop shuriken, kunai, and most small swords. Can you add some training weights? Naruto asked, turning his arm over thoughtfully. Sure. Lots of shinobi wear weighted clothes. If you want, I could add something to your jacket as well, and they'd be ready by the end of the week. How much did you have in mind? Can I try 10 pounds in the limbs and 20 in the jacket? The young shinobi asked. Sanemi nodded and produced 2 10-pound bars which she balanced expertly on his outstretched arms. Yes, this will do for a start. Sanemi-san, Hinata spoke up hesitantly. May I try 5 pounds, please? No need to be shy, miss, Sanemi replied cheerfully. I'm here to help you. Now let's see how these feel. What about you, Ino-chan? Her fellow blonde asked. I don't see why not. 5 pounds as well, although, what is it, Ino-chan? Hinata posed the question from where she stood with the smaller weights balanced on each arm, her jacket discarded over the back of a chair. It's just, I'm used to leading, kind of, and now it seems like I'm the last on the team to take action. She raised her hand, showing the jagged white scar on the back of her hand. I kinda feel like a lemming. Ouch, Naruto exclaimed in mock agony. So I'm a cliff now. Well, technically, you'd be the steep drop off of the cliff, Naruto-kun. Hinata interjected with a giggle that threatened to dislodge her weights. You're not helping, Hina-chan, Naruto growled. Anyway, Ino-chan, we all have our specialties, and that's where we led. Hina's a scout, I'm a brute, and you're intelligence. I used to be a shinobi myself, though I'm retired now. Sanemi slipped fluidly into the conversation, and Naruto's right. You'll all have your chance to shine, or be shined on. Now then, Miss Ino, was it? Let's see to your weights. XXXXX. It was 11 o'clock by the time Team 10 took their leave and made their way to their training ground, with a brief stop to deposit Naruto's new clothes. We have an hour to kill before Kurenai-sensei gets here. Naruto yawned. Any ideas? We could go for a jog, Ino suggested. Naruto perked up as she waved them over and drew a rough diamond shape in the dirt. Now if memory serves, we are at training ground 10, here. She pointed to the top of the dust diamond. Training grounds 7, 8, and 9 should also be in this block, going counterclockwise from here. She paused to point to the left-hand corner. In most rookie teams practice on a training ground that's the same as their team number. How do you know all this? Naruto gestured to the diamond. There are maps of the various training grounds all over the village. Don't tell me you've never looked at them. Actually, I haven't. I just went to where I knew a training ground was, and if it was occupied, I wandered around until I found one that wasn't. That tears it. Ino stood up hastily. We're going to have to make sure you know where to find allies if you need them. We'll start with training ground 7. Leaving no further room for argument, the taller blonde picked a direction and started to jog with her teammates, catching up in an easy burst of speed. They made good time and soon stood at training ground 7, where they immediately noticed something wrong. Where's their sensei? Naruto murmured aloud. Dunno, but they should, Ino replied before raising her voice to a shout, Hey forehead. Aren't you a little young to be wandering around by yourself? Shut it, Ino pig. Sakura fired back. Our sensei told us to be here at 7. Do you seriously mean your teacher is 4 hours late? Hinata stared in disbelief. She'd been raised with the mindset that time is a valuable commodity, and like any such commodity, wasting it was frowned on heavily. Yeah, but what can you do? Kiba tossed back from his spot under the tree. What about you guys? Kurenai-sensei is meeting us at our training ground at noon, Naruto replied. We're doing laps around the training grounds to kill time until we go for a mission. Hey forehead, you wanna join us? It's a good way to get in shape, Ino prompted. And get all sweaty. The green-eyed girl wrinkled her nose in disgust. No, thanks. Are you sure, Sakura-san? You never know when a little extra muscle will make all the difference, Hinata asked. PFF'd. Sakura waved the trio of genin off. If I get into any trouble, Sasuke-kun will save me. Ino's eyes narrowed into slits as she clenched her fists angrily. Let's go, she growled coldly, glaring at her friend. A real Kunoichi doesn't wait to be saved. With that last, scathing remark, Team 10 turned and resumed their jog, leaving a puzzled cherry blossom in their wake. So, next up is Team 8. Naruto called to the seething Kunoichi. What do we know about them? Shikamaru and Choji are a couple of unrepentant slackers, but when the shit hits the fan, they're the ones you want at your back. Ino's displeasure shone clearly in her voice, and Naruto suspected it would for some time. I don't know anything about Shino. He was always quiet in class, and now that I think on it, I can't actually remember him answering any questions. Shino's clan is a bit unusual, Hinata explained. Says the girl with the X-ray eyes to the Mindwalker and the Stamina Freak. Naruto quips. True enough, the Hyuga heiress mused. The Aburame clan has a symbiotic relationship with the Kikai insects that dwell in their bodies. I think I remember reading a bit about them last night, the blue-eyed shinobi mused. If I remember correctly, their insects feed on chakra. Right, Hinata confirmed. As such, those insects are an Aburame's primary means of attack. Naruto slowed as the trio approached Team 8's training ground, arriving in time to see the three fresh genin rush an older bearded man, presumably their Jonin sensei, each holding a pair of kunai as the younger men tried to get inside their sensei's guard. Naruto and the girls watched breathlessly as Choji and Shino forced the man's arms wide while Shikamaru charged in and pressed the point of a kunai into either side of Asuma's Adam's apple. This is so troublesome, the pineapple-haired youth complained. Do you yield? I do, the Jonin said, relaxing his stance. Congratulations, boys, you're true genin ninjas now. You rock, Ino cheered, giving a little jump that made her bounce pleasantly. Naruto smiled as Choji and Shikamaru jerked towards her voice. Shino raised an eyebrow as Asuma chuckled. We'll have to work on situational awareness, I see, the bearded Jonin smirked. Anything I can do for you kids? Not really, we're just making the rounds and getting reacquainted with our future coworkers. Ino said, making hasty introductions. So was that your exam? Asuma nodded. Normally, a Jonin will give the exam the same day the team meets for the first time, but I had to think up a good test for them. Normally I fight with a pair of trench knives, so the boys had to force me to submit with just a pair of kunai. Hey, Ino, did you read my note? Shikamaru drawled lazily. Oh gosh, with everything that happened I completely forgot about it, the blonde said apologetically. It's too troublesome to worry about. The brunette replied. I just said to be careful out there, and not to give Naruto too much of a hard time. I'm still waiting to see him in action, but he's got potential, Ino shrugged. At least he looks like a shinobi, now. He does at that, Shika agreed. You guys should get going, though. We might see ya around for missions. We might, at that, Ino giggled, bowing respectfully before jogging away. Next stop, Training Ground 9. Naruto said, this is the team Iruka said was in circulation from last year. Neji Nisan, Hinata murmured worriedly. You know something, Hinata. Ino looked over at her teammate. I think Team 9 is my cousin Neji's team, Hinata explained. He doesn't like me much. That's too bad, Naruto said cracking his knuckles. I didn't want to have to smack down a fellow Konoha shinobi before lunch, but those are the breaks. Naruto-kun. Hinata seemed aghast at the concept of her long-time crush fighting her cousin. You don't understand. No, Hina-chan, you don't understand. You're mine, the both of you. Ino's head whipped around in surprise at that declaration. In just as much, I am yours. I don't care if he's your cousin, or your father, or the fourth Hokage fresh out his grave. Nobody makes my girls sad, Naruto said with a firm nod of his head. Not even me, okay. If I do something boneheaded, don't be afraid to tell me. Please, Naruto-kun, if he says anything let it slide, Hinata begged. Just for today. Naruto turned to answer when he backed into a brunette Kunoichi, taking the pair down in a messy tangle of limbs and cloth. I'm sorry about that. The blonde hastily untangled himself and helped the other girl back to her feet. I wasn't paying attention. Are you all right? Why don't you watch where you're going, you jerk? The bun-haired girl said snidely. Excuse me, Naruto said, starting to burn his admittedly short fuse. I remember you from class. The girl smirked. Always goofing around and pulling stupid tricks. It's a wonder you actually managed to graduate. So you remember me, huh? Naruto huffed, looking casually down at the ground. I wish I could say I have the same honor, but I don't like to lie to a lady. Naruto raised his head, his trademark vulpine grin spreading across his face. You little bastard. The Kunoichi took a wide swing which Naruto casually blocked before stepping inside her guard and getting in her face. Listen sister, I don't know what crawled up your cute little this morning, but I didn't do anything wrong. My name is Tenten, not, sister, and you ran me over. The brunette Kunoichi yelled back. You're in the middle of a dirt path. Naruto countered, jabbing her sharply in the chest. I helped you up. I apologized for knocking you down. I asked if you were okay. Each accusation was punctuated by another heavy poke to Tenten's chest, the last of which sent her staggering backwards. I don't know why you're such a bitch, but you owe me an apology for your behavior. Don't hold your breath, Uzumaki. Tenten snapped back. It'll be a cold day in hell before I ever apologize to you. Shall we take our leave, ladies? Naruto glared darkly at the bun-haired girl as her teammates came jogging toward the group. I really can't see any reason to stick around here. Wait, youthful stranger. Naruto took an instinctive step back as a green, something bounded into his field of view. What is your problem with our dear Tenten? Well, mister, the blonde trailed off hoping for something to identify the crazy green genin in front of him. Ah, you wish to know my name. Is it not good manners to first offer your own? Never had much need for manners myself, Naruto shrugged. The name's Uzumaki Naruto. I am Konoha's beautiful green beast, Rock Lee. The boy exclaimed, causing the others to recoil away from the sheer volume. Now my youthful friend, I ask you again, what is the nature of your fight with our Kunoichi teammate? Your girl has an attitude problem, Naruto said coolly, and a distinct lack of appreciation for common courtesy. My apology, Tenten. Don't hold your breath, Uzumaki. The older Kunoichi smirked with sickening sweetness. Or better yet, do. You're just a regular barrel of sunshine, aren't you? Naruto growled, spinning on his heel and beckoning to the girls. Tenten threw a last angry glare before stalking back to the training grounds, her teammates following quickly behind. Ino gave the retreating trio a brutal glare. Hinata, on the other hand, seemed transfixed by the other girls swaying. I would hit that like the fist of an angry kami, she murmured softly. Ino and Naruto stopped and stared as Hinata's ever-present blush reached nuclear status and she hurried away, back to their own training ground. After they arrived, the trio was silent for a long while before Naruto spoke. So, Hina-chan, care to explain? It's nothing really. All my life, my clansmen have drummed into me that I'm expected to produce an heir, and I clearly like boys, if my attraction to Naruto-kun is anything to go by. Still, I can't help but wonder about, you know. Sounds like you're bi-curious, Ino clarified. Interesting. I don't know about all that, but I know what I like, Hinata replied, gazing back in the direction of her cousin's training ground. And I think I like that very much. Indeed, Naruto murmured in agreement, picturing Tenten swaying backside in his mind. I'm not too crazy about her attitude, though. Glad to see you've been getting to know the other teams, Kurenai said as she appeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruto, nice clothes. You look like a shinobi should. Ready for your first D rank mission. The young shinobi nodded and set off for the Hokage Tower.